Welcome back, everyone, to the Crosslink channel and another interview with Andy Soderberg about the Hero Me suite and the latest and greatest updates. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Andy and bring him on the stream. Welcome, Andy. Welcome tonight to our stream. So for those who don't know you yet and don't know what Hero Me is, I would like you to do a little intro of yourself and tell us a little bit about your story, your background story, how you got into 3D printing, so people get to know you a little.
Sure. Glad to. I got into 3D printing through a Kickstarter project about 9 years ago. Print M3D, a tiny little green cube with a print build space of about 4 inches by 4 inches. It actually was a direct drive. And it was the most successful hardware thing that Kickstarter had at that time. And it kind of kicked off the 3D phase in Kickstarter. It was about $350. I still have it. It's up on the shelf. But that's how I got started, and printing little benchies and other things. And then I learned about Tinkercad and started doing design work. And after that printer, I went on to a Wanhao i3 duplicator, and then another twin, and then I went big with a CR10, upgraded it along the way, and then Ender 3s, Ender 5 pluses, now got 7 Prusas, 2 bamboos. So,
Oh my goodness, no really.
But yeah, so
you got more printers than I have. Oh my goodness.
It's been a lot of fun. It was a hobby. It's still a hobby, but it's now turning into something that can fund my retirement.
I see. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a bit. I'm curious. Like you got into 3D printing, you got this Kickstarter printer, but over the years, like besides the project that we're talking about today, is like what was the motivation for you to get into 3D printing, and what were the things that you created?
It was grew up watching Star Trek, and to materialize stuff. This is the closest thing to Star Trek being able to materialize stuff. Here's a you pretty well seeing these. A trash walker, pen holder. I've also made one that's about this big that is my trash can.
Nice.
And to functional things. Here's a portable. I actually put USB parts and adapters in here.
Yeah.
But I got into it because again, it was being able to build something out of nothing. And actually doing functional stuff. I've done door switches and I've fixed parts and things around the house. I've designed signs for friends. It's being able. It's materializing something from an idea. I can't draw worth heck, but give me a computer and a mouse and a keyboard, and I can go to town with Tinkercad and design practically anything.
Okay. So I get it. So you're very functional oriented printer user. So what do you think about all these minifigures and Warhammer add-ons? Is this something that you're in?
No, I'm not into that. I have printed dragons for my wife and other, the gnomes and other little goody things for friends. I've done for Easter, Easter eggs for my wife for display in the house. Christmas ornaments. I've done those sorts of things. I have a huge bucket load, probably this big, of benchies because I do a lot of test printing, and it's my reference test. And I probably will build a wall with benchies at some point because it would probably fill a wall.
I see.
And then Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is a tough test, and if you can dial in the printer well enough to not have any stringing or crosshairs and just have the girders that are supposed to be in here, you've got a well dialed in printer. This is a tough print. And so I've done large ones, small ones. Yeah.
Talking about Hero Me, I think that's your biggest project that you ever did, right? So that's what you're working on right now. So
yeah,
how did you start with that?
Well, so I get on my soapbox a little bit here. Manufacturers of 3D printers, whether it be Creality or Elegoo or even Prusa and others, part cooling is an afterthought. It's a checkbox. It's, we got to have it, just slap one on there. No engineering was really done to do proper part cooling. And so I and probably hundreds, if not thousands of other folks who are tinkering with their printers and want to get better results, tried to upgrade their printers with better part cooling. And so that's what I did, was started to design that. I used other people's stuff and learned from them, and designed my own, and then started sharing it on Thingiverse. And it kind of took off. And it's the ducts. I'm sitting here on a
I see, yeah.
But the part cooling ducts are the issue here, is that it's designed to create a really laminar flow that goes below the nozzle, and it also sweeps back. So it's an inverted Y, right? And it blends really smoothly, and it covers the part below the nozzle really, really well. And so it really worked for me, and I shared it with a few people, and then people would say, well, what about my printer? Can you do it for this printer? And could you do it for that printer? And so on, and lost a lot of hair doing a lot of bespoke things. And so we're now 5 years later on generation 7 of Hero Me, 7.3 actually, and it's now all modular, very, very modular, and you supports 100 printers, currently 100 models of printers so far, and as long as I have a model of an X carriage, I can add any printer.
Yeah, I've been using it for quite a while now. So I think from the generations that I've probably started with generation 5. That was the first real test. I think I've used one before, but it wasn't yet that modular, and it became better over time. And now I'm also a big fan. Like, talking about generation 7, like, what would you say is the most important improvement that you did with generation 7? What was the biggest change?
So generation 7 was the completion of true modularity, in that there's one part per object. So if you have a hot end, there's a mount part for that. If you have an extruder, there's a mount part for that. And they all have the same mating. So you want to exchange extruders, you can just swap them out, just swap a part that mounts to that extruder. You want to change hot ends, there's a mount specific, and it just changes. You don't have to start over. You don't have to reprint the whole suite. You just print the part you need that you're swapping. You're going to go from 40-10 fans to 50-15 fans. Then the only thing you print are a new duct for the size of fan. So it's Lego bricks for print heads.
I get it. Very modular. That's what I was also looking for. Like, why? Because I started with the Ender default parts, what's essentially coming with the printer without swapping anything out. And then I decided, okay, this is not enough. I want a stronger cooling fan. I want dual fans, and I think it was just a matter of a few hours to do that. So I see the point of modularity. Is there anything else that Gen 7 has been changed versus 6 and 5? That the ducting got improved. More smooth airflow, larger duct openings. More ridge is the wrong word. There's more meat on it in the right places to have stiffer and stronger parts. And Gen 7, another big change with Gen 7. With Gen 6, things like the ABL, whether it's a BL Touch, CR Touch, Pin2Pro, whatever, really was only on the left side. And Gen 7 is completely symmetrical, so you could have it on the right. Some printers want it on the right side, so you can mix and match and swap. Things are stackable.
the extruder stacks on top of the hot end, the fan stacked on the side of the base, and the ABL sensors can stack against a wire tower. So it's again really modular. And another big addition in 7 is just the addition of a lot more printers supported, a lot of linear rail kits, and it's broadening. And I'm the Sobol 6 was launched just a few weeks ago, right? 6 Plus.
Yeah.
And at your request, I had a new gantry adapter for it in a couple hours. It's really pretty straightforward for me now to add a new printer, a new hot end, etc. So the ecosystem is growing.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen that, and my Sobol printers are waiting for the upgrade. I just got this new. It finally arrives, the new extruder. This is the new extruder. So this is a complete unit from Sobol. Normally, what you just have to do is just put it on the gantry and connect the wires here. So the cable is just one plug, which actually that's what I like a lot about this idea, is that you have this single plug, one cable, and then you can, from there, you connect all the parts like the fans, the sensor, the extruder motor. You connect to a PCB board, which has several plugs. And I was thinking about the same for my Ender printer now. I'm prototyping something at the moment where I have something attached to the Hero Me base where there's a little PCB board, and I can connect the plugs from there. So, but it's not done yet. It's still an idea.
That's the thing is because it's so modular, it's easy to add new things on. CAN bus is another way of doing what you just described, where there's some electronics at the controller board and also some smarts. And so instead of it being a big ribbon cable like the Sobol, it's just 4 wires, power and data, and it's all then done on this little board that's actually can sit on the back of the extruder. It makes it a lot easier to not have to build wire looms.
That's actually this is a good moment to add a question from the community, and I have one here from Cyrus. He's asking, what is your suggestion for a first-time user, a Hero Me upgrader?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say 2 things. One is before you upgrade to Hero Me, or really to anything, I really suggest you spend 6 months with that printer. If you're new to 3D printing, spend a good 6 months with that printer as it is, get to know it inside and out, so you know how it functions, such that when you do upgrade to something, you can see the benefits, or something's tweaked, you know where to look. You definitely don't want to do multiple upgrades, because then, if something goes wrong, you really don't know which one caused the problem. And for Hero Me specifically, test fit, print all the parts and test fit them before assembly. And I would say, because if you've just only got one printer and you take it apart and you haven't pre-test fitted, you're going to have to undo and put your printer back together again if you have to reprint something, right? Because you only have the one printer.
Yeah, that's right.
So you want to get everything. So that's why I have one of these stands, so you can test fit everything before you then mount it on your printer. So that's get it all tuned and adjusted, the wires figured out, all that before you tear down the one printer to put the Hero Me on it.
I have a follow-up question on that, because my path was, I took all the stock parts first and just added Hero Me. Is that something that you would recommend, or would you say stock hardware is anyways not good enough and you should swap it out?
Stock cooling, the big reason to upgrade to Hero Me is to get much better part cooling. But another big reason is because somebody wants to replace the stock hot end and or because a lot of these inexpensive printers will have a Bowden setup where the extruder is separate and hanging out over on the end of the X carriage.
Mm.
and they want to go direct drive. And so the Hero Me is a great way to quickly use your stock parts to take, I'll use an Ender 3 as an example, the stock hot end and the stock extruder, and merge them together because, and that way you don't have to buy any new hardware. So you can get the benefits of direct drive and the benefits of cooling in one upgrade. But if someone wants to go a step further, I would definitely recommend swap, again, using an Ender example, swap out the stock hot end because it's not all metal, and swap out the extruder because it's not high performance. Not that you have to get super high performance, but if you want to do flexibles, if you want to do high flow, you need a better extruder. And I have to defer to Stefan at CNC Kitchen. He recently did a video reviewing a bunch of extruders, and the Orbiter V2 is the overall best. And it's actually, not very expensive, and it's very easy, and it's very lightweight. So, that's the way.
Yeah.
But if
let's put the link to his video in the description of this video. So I'm gonna put this Stefan's video so you can watch it.
Yep.
If you're interested.
So you get two big benefits out of upgrading with just your stock. You get direct drive, and you can do flexibles and get better prints because there's less retraction, and you get much better part cooling. So two big benefits just with your stock hardware and not buying anything new.
I see. So I get it. So this is definitely something that is for someone who has some use with the printer, who has some experience, and then wants to do the next step to do some improvements. So I guess there has been a lot of interest for the new version recently. I heard that you have been to a RepRap Festival this year for the first time. So maybe talk about what people said about Hero Me when you met them there.
So let me, I've got a photo here. You can bring that up. And so that was my 8-foot booth at RepRap. It was my first RepRap Festival. And it was the first one in Loveland, Colorado. It's the first one west of the Mississippi. And about 3,000 people attended, crowded. It was awesome. I knew what to expect in the sense of the space and the booths and who was going to be exhibiting. I knew there'd be people attending, but what I didn't expect was the overwhelming interest and having a whole lot of my own patrons show up to share their experiences and thank me for the work that I'm doing. It was humbling. It was a lot of fun. Get to speak a lot of people and do some education. Show them how they can improve printing. Answer a lot of questions. So and the RepRap was also my launch and showcasing of Hero Me Pro. We can talk about that in a minute.
Okay. Yeah, talk about it. You mentioned it already a few times when we were talking. So let us know what Hero Me Pro is all about and what's different.
So it's advanced. It's basically derived off of the open source, and it's designed for high performance, high speed, high flow, and it's front mounted, so it's easier to assemble and disassemble. And you bring the slide back up. I've got pictures of it there, but it's a kit. It's a pre-printed kit. So Hero Me is still open source, Gen7, and its siblings going forward in the future will still be open source. But I've licensed Hero Me Pro to some vendors to offer them as kits, and it's completely bespoke to each order. So whatever printer you have, hot end you have, extruder you have, ABL, if it's covered, again, Hero Me covers a whole lot. You in the order form, you select those things that you own, and it will come printed, heat threaded inserts already installed, test fitted, ready for you just to assemble it to your printer. And so 3dfused.com in the US and 3D printing in Edmonton in Canada are the North American vendors. I'm currently looking for one or more in Europe and hope to get that lined up here in the next couple of months. So you've got a choice. In fact, at RepRap, there were people who were actually interested in both. In that they had a hobby printer that they wanted to go and experiment on, use open source and modify it, and then they had other printers that are functional and they just want to get it going and set it up quickly. And so they go, oh, gee, I can get a kit. For
some of them that's maybe easier. So, I mean, if I had a printer and it wasn't working that well anymore, and I couldn't guarantee that I can print a part, I think Hero Me Pro would be an option for me. So go, okay, let's do it right away and let's switch everything out and get it going again with something that is more professional. Yeah, right. That might be a good motivation.
So talk about the ecosystem just a moment so you can get the breadth of it. As I mentioned earlier, 100 printers, models of printers, covering all the major name brands you can think of, that have open source ability to change out components, and 46 Hotends, 34 different extruders, 16 different ABL sensors, 10 different ADXL 345 accelerometers for Clipper, and then 34 different part cooling duct setups, and then other options, LED mounts, things like that. When you multiply it out,
I was just about to ask, how many possibilities are there?
Accurately stupid, crazy number.
Yeah.
It's over 35 billion with a B.
Yeah.
Different possible combinations. But it's
powerful.
It's not hard to select. I mean, when you go to printables to download it, it's a zip, and in the zip, it's organized in folders and subfolders, and the file names are very detailed. You can speak to that. You've seen it.
Yeah.
You use it.
I can take away a little bit of the fear. So if you heard the number and you feel this is overwhelming, I don't know where to start. I think it's still very much straightforward. You have your printer model, you have your gantry adapter, you select it for your printer. They have the base, which is mostly the same for all of the printers, and then you have the add-on parts, and you basically just go through step by step. I think it's not just because there are so many possibilities for most of us. It's probably really just go, select the right parts.
As little as 4 or 5 SDLs, say for a Bowden setup, or as many as 12 SDLs for a fully direct drive, ABL, accelerometer, LEDs, dual fans. You're looking at maybe 12 parts to print.
Yeah. And I was actually showing the new version recently, and I think I showed it on Twitter and on Instagram, and some comments I got were like, "What is this? This looks so heavy and so bulky, and it looks like a ton of stuff." And I got back to you and I said, "Okay, how much? Like, let's do some research." And then I found that the Stealth Burner with the Clockwork 2 is actually 433 grams, and then you came back and said, "Yeah, we have
that." So I got a slide here. Bring it up.
Yeah, let's bring it up.
So this is Hero Me Pro, dual 5015s, not a single, dual 5015s, with a BL Touch, a Orbiter V2, and a Creality Spider 3 Pro. And all of the threaded inserts are there, the mounting hardware, 329 grams. Yeah. So I beat them by 70 grams.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's what I said. Like it looks bulky, but it's actually not heavy. And there was another question. Like I can imagine if someone looks at the Voron, it looks quite nice and beautiful, but it doesn't mean that it's super lightweight. Because printing fast is not only about the weight of the system, but it's also about the software and Clipper and how you drive the system. And linear rails, right? We didn't add that into the picture yet. But there was also a question, like, because of you, we are showing this picture here, like, it looks to be very functional, the Hero Me system, but do you have any plans on improving the aesthetics? And
Well,
want to give credit to who did ask the question.
Yeah.
It was RNF Geared. RNF Geared asked this question. So maybe you can talk about that.
Well, there are trade-offs. There's no perfect solution. Someone can build a completely bespoke, beautiful thing just for that printer, and it works perfect for that printer, but it'll never work anywhere else, right? I made other choices because I wanted to provide really great cooling, and a lot of people asked for it. The only way I could do that is I need to build something that has standards. And so the base, the core of this six-sided, it's not cube, it's got its own shape, tilted face, but the cube, all of the sides have standardized positions for the ducts, for the hot end, for the extruder, for the ABL mounts, etc. And so you get a functional design. I made it pretty. I have actually, these, it doesn't look like here, again, this is a functional look. I actually did a Boron-like thing where I put a skin on it, but it's it's pretty for it hides all the wires and hides the function. But it adds, it adds 100 grams to it.
So it just looks beautiful, but it's
right.
It's not matter in any way.
I'm fine with the functional, form follows function. And it is strong, and it is sturdy. And to me, it is beautiful. But that is the trade-off. To be able to offer it to so many systems, to so many parts, you've got to make it so that it's easily adaptable, and there's standard mount points. So again, you swap out extruder, you go from the stock one you were using, not paying money, and now you want an orbiter. All you have to do is print one part, take off the extruder, put the new mount on, and the orbiter, and away you go. So yeah, I'll take function over aesthetics in a 3D printer any day.
Awesome. So there was another question coming from the community. So because it was about the design, I asked you like how you get started, and now the question was, since a lot of people have already done modifications, I've also modified some parts of Hero Me, and it can get, sometimes it's more difficult than it could be, maybe. How are your plans about using Tinkercad? And because people think it might allow a little more collaboration. So what's your plan going forward?
So yes, everyone. All the Hero Me parts, over 450 of them, have been built in Tinkercad over the last 5 years. That's what I started with. That's what I learned. Unfortunately, Tinkercad does not export step files. It's not parametric. And so that is what it is. But Hero Me Pro has been done in Fusion 360. And the step files that I'm doing are only going to be available to my patrons. So that's the thing is, Hero Me's been free. It's open source. But I got to keep the light bulbs on. And so, what I have is for my documentation and my tech support and the community and the how-to videos and the FAQs, and things like the step files and things like early access before I make things public. You can become a patron, patreon.com/MediaMan3D, and you can get those things. So step files are available for a good amount of select parts. There are some older parts that probably will never get made into step files, but pretty much all the popular stuff going forward is done in Fusion 360. But
so does it mean that you're also going to switch over to Fusion 360 for the next generation of Hero Me, the normal Hero Me version?
That's still TBD, only because I'm still learning it. And I need to get up, my chops up to speed on Fusion 360 to see whether I can, comfortably fully switch over and be as productive as I can in Tinkercad. So that's on me to learn, practice, and see if I can pull that off. So I need to be productive. So it may be a transition. I don't know that. I mean, Hero Me Pro is all got step files backing it up, but open source Gen 7.4 or Gen 7.5 or Gen 8 eventually, but I don't know how quick.
Okay. We were talking about how quickly you are with making new parts for new printers and all kinds of stuff. And then I got a few questions that go into the same direction. One is from JT, and I think you see these questions all the day. Will you be making a Hero Me cooling system for the Micro Swiss NG extruder replaced by any printer name and any Hotend?
Take the NG and replace that with Hemera, replace that with the Sprite, replace that with any new integrated extruder Hotend combo. A Hero Me, no. But so let me just hold on there. Don't turn the channel. You know how big those are. The Hemera is as big as this whole piece is. It's huge. There's no way a Hero Me with its design and standards mount to those. So those things that are integrated, they're much bigger bodies, need a bespoke, specific to those each one cooling system. So I am working on taking the Hero Me ducting technology that we've done and designing specific cooling duct mounts to wrap on those and add a ABL mount point and even an accelerometer mount point, and it'll be unique and bespoke to each one of those. So that's something for this summer. That's the goal, to start releasing those. Probably when I start releasing them, it'll be one every 2 weeks kind of thing, or one every 3 weeks. But that's a summertime project. So yes, it's on the radar. Yes, it will have Hero Me computational fluid dynamics tested, really proven air cooling. In fact, that's a good example. We could play this video to show just how good is it, Andy?
Yeah, let's see this.
So here it is, the Hero Me, and it is bridging 250 millimeters midair, no support and no sagging.
Oh my goodness!
All right.
This is, every time I see this is so crazy.
So if you can get a system that can cool this well, you can cool practically anything.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of control that Hero Me has. You can, and so yeah, it's a great demo, and it really shows off the power and capability of having a properly ducted system that wraps air with as little turbulence as possible. Because if there was a lot of turbulence, a lot of air, it would be moving the strings around, right? It would be pushing them down. So yeah, that's that's the example. There is
yeah, I can imagine that with anything that is not really designed to be pushing the air into the right direction, instead of just pushing some air as much as possible downwards, which probably a lot of the standard
the thing is, people have been looking for cooling. You'll see ones that are rings, right? Rings with little holes around them, bringing air.
I've used those on my ANET printers.
Air doesn't do what you think you want it to do. Air goes the least path of resistance. So it's not going around and come out the holes on the other side. Doesn't work that way. So that doesn't work. You'll see cooling systems where the ducts point down at the nozzle, but they're 180 degrees directly opposite each other. That doesn't work because that's air that's just creating turbulence, and turbulence doesn't create good cooling. So that's what's unique about the Hero Me is the ducts are designed in a shape to create a laminar flow in the duct, coming out of the duct in a laminar flow, and at an angle and as such that it if the nozzle's here, it's doing this, blending with the least amount of turbulence, and it's bathing the part below the nozzle on all sides. And so yeah, are there other ducts out there that have done the same thing? But Voron doesn't do that. The ducts on Voron don't do that. and others, the EVA 3, the default decks on that don't do it. So yeah.
So when is your Warron version coming?
So I actually, in Gen 7 3 is a switchwire afterburner version to put a Hero Me on a Voron X carriage. I'll put a little asterisk with that.
Mm-hmm.
That is, many of those printers are designed such that, kind of like a Prusa, only about 40 millimeter wide, because the box is right so close to the bed size, there's no room. And so a dual fan setup like this is too wide. So no, this scenario won't go on a Voron. But the one with the body, I've got a fan in the back with the ducts coming underneath. And that does...
That's much more compact, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it gets into that narrow space. So yeah, I've got in 7.3 were new ones like for the Hypercube, for the Mercury 1, for a lot of generic linear rail systems, and the Voron. So I'm going to be building on that and adding a second duct that can put two 5015s behind. So yeah. So that's big. That's in the works right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think to conclude, it would be great. So just to bring it together, like what is the best place to start looking into Hero Me? What's your recommendation? So where do people will find all this information? Where will people find you to connect with you and to support you, most importantly?
So thank you. Yeah, the open source Hero Me Gen 7, 7.3.2 now, and I do updates typically every month, 6 weeks. Is best place is on Printables, printables.com. It's also on Thingiverse, but Thingiverse doesn't make it as friendly. So I recommend Printables. I actually am going to be doing something with Thangs. I met with the Thangs CTO at Murph, Rocky Mountain Murph. And so there'll be something happening in a couple of months with them that'll be new and different. But it's below here, my website, merlinmedia.com. That main page on Merlin Media talks about Hero Me Pro. But if you scroll down to the bottom, it's got links to my Patreon/MediaMan3D. It's got my email address. It's got my Facebook address. It's got all my contacts. I do a lot of posting on Facebook and forums, groups like I Love to 3D Print, and various Ender and Neptune and Soval and other groups, letting them know that I've got updates in there. And yeah, if you're comfortable with your printer, and comfortable with parts, you can put a Hero Me together without ever talking to me. I'd love you to support me, and if you need help, I can provide help. So I encourage you to check out my Patreon. I have different tiers. You can get the documentation for as little as $3. For an extra $2, you get videos and FAQs, access to the private Discord server, access to 30 days advance access to files before they go public. And then at
Awesome.
the $10 level, you get the step files, and goes up from there. So there are ways that people can support me, and I want to, anybody who is my patron out there who's watching, I want to say thank you very much. I've got now reached 2,500 patrons, so I've got a very nice community supporting me, and I want to be able to help more, and so that's how I'm doing it.
The last time where we were speaking, I think your number of patrons was a few hundred maybe, and then I think then it grew very fast. And I think I also want to thank that people are really supporting creators on Patreon. I think it's a great place and a great way to do it. And I really want to thank you for doing this, for doing the project. I think it has been an amazing journey so far. Also to remind everyone here that's watching the video, please check out the Patreon of Andy. Also, please don't forget to like this video, because this is going to push the video a little bit higher into YouTube's ranking. That's how it works nowadays. And Andy's going to share more details on his Patreon and Twitter probably in a few days.
So expect to see, I'll be doing some videos with some other YouTubers, and you'll be seeing Hero Me linked from some major name vendors. That was one of the other things that came away from the Rocky Mountain, is that there are some major name third-party aftermarket parts suppliers who will be linking to Hero Me, because it helps make the parts that they sell be able to be added to the printers. So
awesome. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So Andy, I want to thank you for coming onto this video chat. We'll probably do this again someday in the future, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. So check out all the links in the video description. We have the Patreon of Andy. We have all the links to printables.com. Everything that we talked about is going to be in the video description. So check that out after this video. And yeah, I want to see you back again for another video very soon on this channel. Goodbye.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. See ya.